When you're looking at, or you're tasked with recreating a person that actually existed, I mean, you can read all the stories, or everything that's been documented about a person or been written about a person, but that's still not like seeing a video or a movie of them.
Rescuing slaves requires skill and careful planning. It requires reading, Harriet. Can you read a sign or a map? Can you read it all?
I put my attention on trying to hear God's voice more clearly.
Do you know what would happen if you got caught? They would torture you until you pointed them right to this office. You got lucky, Harriet. And there's nothing more you can do.
Don't you tell me what I can't do. I made it this far on my own. God was watching, but my feet was my own. Running, bleeding, climbing, nearly drowned, nothing to eat for days and days, man. I made it. So don't you tell me what I can't do.
My passion for costumes started very early. Growing up, my mother used to make puppets, and I learned to sew, and I entered into the world of theater through school. I went to a performing arts high school. I then went to undergrad school studying fashion design for a year, and then transferred to School of the Arts, North Carolina School of the Arts, for costume design and grad school costume design. And so it's been kind of, I've had blinders on as far as approaching this profession, but I'm really glad that I've stuck with it. Soon on after that, George Wolfe at the Public Theater was directing a production called Bring Into Noise, Bring Into Funk, and that was for Broadway. So that was my first Broadway show, and I was nominated for the costume design for that. I want to say it was 96, 95 or 96 maybe. But I continued to work on Broadway pretty steadily, as well as theater around the country. I was on Hamilton from the very beginning. I'd actually worked with that creative team, Tommy Kail, who's the director of Hamilton. They also, before that, had produced In the Heights. And so I designed In the Heights as well. So that was years before Hamilton. I knew that I loved it. I knew that it was an emotional, very emotional piece, and beautifully written, and everything that you want in a Broadway show. I just had no idea that the rest of the world would hold on to it in that way as well. So after looking at my career and living in the middle of it, I decided that I wanted to continue in theater but expand in a different way. And I think that the most plausible direction was in television and film. For Harriet, there are a number of photographs of her. I think that maybe 5 that we are familiar with. Most of those photographs are of her as an older woman. But when I was able to find, and it was revealed to me that it was a newly found photograph of Harriet when she was much younger, it was revealing, to see her without a head wrap, to see her in a bodice and skirt, that was elegant, and that she was, there was a vitality about that photograph, and youthfulness, obviously, that allowed for us to see her in a much broader way. As a designer, you try to make really smart choices about what is the mindset behind how a person goes through their life. We're following the evolution of a really remarkable woman from the very beginning, from her most humble beginning, and then her journey and search for freedom and freedom of spirit, as she moves towards the north. She's in this broken down dress that's been handed down to her, or that was created for her, but because she's worn it so much, it's basically, in threadbare. And we see how it starts to fall apart as she goes, she's running through the forest, she's jumps from a bridge into a river, she is taken down the river through the rapids, and when she comes out on the bank, it is half on, she's half dressed. And then she makes her way to a Quaker family and is gifted a dress that's ill-fitting, which allows for her to at least be clothed to get to Philadelphia, where she meets Marie Buchanan, which is played by Janelle Monáe, through the contact of William Still, that's played by Leslie Odom. And when she meets Marie, I mean, it's the first time that she sees a black woman, a black free woman that is self-created. I mean, has the wherewithal to dress in finery that up to that point Harriet has only seen on Caucasian women, on white women. So she starts to shift what her perspective is on being a modern woman of the period. There is clothing that is gifted to her by Marie, which allows for her to basically be in disguise as a free woman, going back down to the plantation to get more of her family and other people. My design is working to create this woman that puts together clothing that is both functional and also operates at, we get the sense that she's a master of disguise. The first is a combination of female and male clothing pieces that, kind of gives Harriet a certain swagger, and she has knee-high boots and a coat that she throws around, and so it becomes heroic, and we start to see how she's developing this heroic character as we move towards almost the end. The look that is her power look towards the end, which is a red velvet coat and dress that resonates more as an emotional statement for her, that she has evolved into this superhero. This film was physically not an easy film to do. I mean, we were out in the middle of muddy plantations and even in buildings that were leaking, and there was always some trial that we were going through, but we managed to do something really beautiful.